Hi, welcome to Fly or Die. I'm Eric Schoenfeld.
And I'm John Biggs from Crunch Gear.
And today we're going to go through 3 new products. The TurboTax for the iPad, Ditto, which is an interesting new social mobile app, and an Olympus camera, right?
It's the EPL2, which is a new Micro Four Thirds camera.
All right, well, let's jump right into it with what I like to call the vegetables. TurboTax, which if you do your own taxes is the best way to do your taxes. Now they have an app that's resident on the iPad, and it's just like the online version or the desktop version, except for it's all, you can do it all on the iPad. It calculates your, your estimated refund or the amount that you owe right up here on the top, and it takes you through sort of an easy guide. And you can do this all on your iPad. I thought, entering this information would be a really big pain. I actually tried it out, and I did it with like a movie in the background, and I did it. I got most of my stuff in by the time the movie was over, and it was a lot less stressful doing it that way than, sitting in front of your computer somehow. So I really enjoyed it.
Well, I like my Long Island accountant, so I'm going to stick with him, but I'll give this a fly as well.
Yeah, I think it's an obvious fly, and you can also kind of go back and forth between the desktop, or you can enter on the desktop and then port it over to the iPad when you're going through all the guided, the different guided questions, and so you can kind of move back and forth with it. And it's like all of TurboTax's products. You can do it for free. You can do all your taxes for free, and then only at the end when you actually have to file, that's when you have to pay, and, then it costs like $30 and going up.
All right.
So it's an obvious fly, I think. A lot of people are going to use it.
Excellent.
Okay, so next, want to do Ditto. So Ditto is a new app that it's a little bit different than some of the other mobile apps and check-in apps, in that it's a way to tell all your friends what you want to do or what you're doing right now, and you can tell them about what you're doing at home, at work, where you want to eat, and it's all location-based.
What you're doing with your kids, what movie you want to see. So presumably you're saying to the world that I want to go to have Thai food, and you tell the world this, and then the world joins you.
Right, and it sort of knows where you are, and then it fills in with local places, and it fills in the location. It's all sort of about what you're doing, and then you can have these conversations with people, about what you're doing or about your plans. And it could be either sort of semi-private within Ditto, or you can broadcast it out to Twitter and Facebook.
What's interesting, there are a lot of these new services that are sort of like, they're compartmentalizing, and they're trying to control how you communicate. So you basically say, I want to do X in this place with this person, whereas with Twitter you would say to somebody, hey, let's go to the movies, or SMS somebody, you say, let's go to the movies, or I don't understand this at all.
Yeah, I know. You're a little bit confused by it.
I thought it was kind of goofy.
So you're going to give it what?
I'm going to give it a die, unequivocally, because it's people don't want to sit there on an app and say, I am looking to eat Thai food, and then expect their friends to join them. You contact your friends and say, let's go eat Thai food. But you're not really doing that here.
I just don't think you're living in the new real-time world that the rest of us are living in. The app it takes a little bit getting used to. And what I like about the app actually is that it's really different. It's different than the other apps that are out there.
How is it different from Path or any one of these sort of Rails systems that say, this is what I'm doing now, this is what I'm eating now, and you have a list of things that you have to pull down from?
I find that it's a very structured way to sort of say what you're doing, and some of the stuff is kind of random.
So it's hard for you to say what you're doing?
No, but it's structured. It's like a structured database in a way, right? Because it puts it into a specific category as opposed to like just unstructured on Twitter. Where
and then what does that get you? Well, are you able to search later?
Yes, you're able to go back to your history and search, and it's really more about your friends who are watching, and want to maybe join in on an activity with you, know exactly what kind of activity you're doing and whether you're looking for somebody else to do it with. And I think it's also something that it's not really clear how people are going to use it, right? I see, people just testing it out. I'm walking my dog. It's like, okay, well, I really don't care about that. But sometimes people say that they want to go try out a new restaurant, and that restaurant happens to be right near me, and they happen to be right there where I am, and maybe I'm hungry, so maybe I'll go and do it. And that's a little bit different than checking in, because if somebody's checking into a restaurant in Foursquare, It's already too late for me to join them.
My problem with that idea is that you're basically saying, I would like someone to come with me to this restaurant or whatever.
Well, I'm going to give it a fly, also because the founder is the same guy who created Jaiku, which was sort of a Twitter competitor that Google bought, and I think he's going to iterate it and make it work.
All right.
So I'm going to give that a fly. Okay. Oh, and here we have. Tell me how you pronounce your name.
It's Yuri.
Yuri. So Yuri is the founder and the developer of Ditto. So I think a lot of people are a little bit confused by what Ditto is supposed to be.
Myself in particular.
Especially John. So what's the main use case for this?
All right, so it's about discovery. Ad hoc recommendations about restaurants, movies, and other activities. And this is really something that's going mobile. And it's, like you were talking about Foursquare here, it's you check into a place, you have a latte, and you may get a deal about a restaurant next door. Now, what are the chances that you're going to stand up at that point and, cross the street? Probably fairly low. Whereas if you capture people at the point when they're just about to make a decision, and you give them, a mix of both algorithmic as well as recommendations coming in real time from their social network, that's just a much more useful experience.
But is the point here that you're trying to create real-world connections between people using this app? Or is it more just about broadcasting what you're doing?
Well, I think those two go together. So it's both about, in Ditto, you add friends to bilateral friend relationship. You can still post publicly, and like you said, you can syndicate out to Facebook, Twitter. You can actually even do Foursquare check-ins if you're already at the place. But really what Ditto's about, it's about the future, right? So it's like, you may say, I'm heading out for coffee, and you know where you're going to go. You're going to Blue Bottle. But it could be that you haven't actually decided yet, and you just want to broadcast that out to your friends. You're saying, I'm heading out, but I'm not exactly sure where I'm going to end up. And that kind of opens that window of opportunity for people to then respond to you. And maybe you end up getting together with somebody. Maybe it's just that someone gives you a recommendation about a place you haven't tried out before. So I think this is much more about discovering places, and not just places, by the way. It also applies to movies. We're looking at doing this for books. We're looking at doing it for different kinds of media right now that are all consumable on the device. Even apps, music, things that you haven't actually tried out yet, but that you actually may like based on recommendations from your friends.
All right, John, are you convinced?
I'll have to see. I mean, it sounds interesting that I could basically be convinced to do something by this app. I haven't been convinced to do anything yet, but it's only because I'm just watching Eric's feed.
What are you seeing? As people are starting to use this app, what are the different sort of use cases that people are sort of glomming onto? It's only been out for a few days, right?
Right. So it's a very simple way to share what you're up to without typing. And it's designed from the ground up for mobile. So you see a lot of people using it when they're on the go. They're doing things like, they're going biking, they're heading out to eat, they're heading out to a bar, they're going for coffee. These are the kind of classic use cases. There's a lot of, Saturday night we see, a lot of people saying, wondering about what movie to go see. So there's also it's just been out for one weekend, right? So it's very early still to say how it actually ends up trending. But so far, it looks really promising. We're getting a lot of activity. People are coming back. They're using it a lot. There's a lot of this response. There's a little bit of a gaming mechanic here also, John, which is where, if Eric actually ends up giving you a recommendation that you then end up liking, you can give him back a little badge or what we call a trophy. So there's a little bit of that gaming mechanic introduced in there just to kind of help people edge along. So it's not just about walking your dog. It's also about, actually being helpful to somebody, which I think overall, I'm trained as a sociologist. My background is not actually an engineer. And so I'm excited by this because I think it provides a way for people to, ultimately we're kind of all looking to get laid, right? So that's what sort of most social apps are about in the end. And one of the best ways to do that is to appear interesting to people and be able to do that by showing that you actually know a place or movie that you can then recommend to somebody at the right point, just as they have that need and they can broadcast that out and get that response from you immediately. It's a beautiful way to, demonstrate that you're actually an interesting guy.
So it'll get you laid. That's
it's social proof. It's pickup artist. It's the pickup artist.
That's a
app.
good slogan. All right. Well, I'm very excited about this. Thanks for joining us, and I'm really excited to see how it develops over time.
I'll try it out in South by Southwest, and I'll see. I'm married, but I'm sure my wife will understand.
Okay. Thanks a lot. Okay. What do we have next, John?
Next, we have the EPL2, which is from Olympus. It's a micro four thirds camera. It's a point and shoot size, but it has removable lenses, and it's very, very portable. So that's why I like it a lot.
But how much does this cost? Like $600?
It's about $600. So you could get a standard DSLR, a Rebel, something like that, or you could get something like this, which has a wider selection of a smaller selection of lenses, but is much more portable than a Rebel. You don't have to carry a huge camera bag. You can carry something very much smaller.
But see, to me, you either get something like this, which is just super, it's always in my pocket, or you might as well have a full-fledged DSLR.
Well, you could do something. They're great point and shoots. The reason why I like this one is that you have removable lenses, so you can swap out lenses. You can get a 50mm lens for headshots. You can get a zoom lens for other shots.
And you could transfer files over Bluetooth to your laptop.
So it has
to me that's pretty huge. I could see using that maybe in at a conference or a press conference, something like that. But I don't know. It just seems like a compromise type of camera for me. Either, I mean, I think that this is a fine camera, but I think in the long term, these things are just going to get smaller and smaller into smaller form factors. So if you're telling me that this is sort of the form factor, I don't think so. I think that it's going to. I'm giving it a die just because. I still think that it's in the transition.
It's interim technology.
Yeah, it's interim technology.
For someone who has to carry a huge camera bag around, this is a lifesaver. So this has really changed the way I cover things, and I'm able to carry a cool camera with lots of lenses, and it doesn't have to take up most of my baggage weight. So I'm giving it a fly.
You can give it a fly. Okay, well that's this week's episode of Fly or Die. Thanks for joining us, and if you have any suggestions for products or services you want us to cover, mention them in comments below.
I'll see you next week.